This is Mandatory Listening. I'm your host, Kent Mann. Each week, we sit down over a cup of coffee and discuss interesting topics in the world of the customer experience.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Retail Toolkit. Retail Toolkit is a powerful software platform that integrates seamlessly with Lightspeed or Ascend to enhance your point-of-sale system and empower independent specialty retailers with data-driven insights that increase profits, turns, margins, and traffic. Retail Toolkit features include their game-changing open-to-buy tool, which helps you plan purchasing according to inventory trends and reduces costly markdowns, their personalized and automated email marketing, which engages customers with higher open rates, and their suite of sales and visitor traffic tools, which measure conversion rates and schedule staff at the right times with payroll built right in. Basically, Retail Toolkit helps you leverage the valuable data your store is already gathering and gives you the tools to take advantage of it. New Retail Toolkit customers from this episode of Mandatory Listening will receive free visitor traffic hardware when they sign up, and special discounts are available exclusively to members of the NBDA and the Bike Cooperative.
Welcome back to Mandatory Listening. This is your host, Kent Mann, and I'm joined today by two very special guests. I've got Dan Mann back in the studio and Matt Powell.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, Matt Powell, how would you describe your role? Is it the senior industry advisor for the sports segment of the NPD Group? Did I get that right?
Yep, exactly right.
Cool. And I think everyone knows Dan at this point, but do you want to do an introduction for yourself, Dan?
I'm the guy that sits next to you and drinks coffee.
Yeah, that's what we're doing this morning. Dan and I are in the beautiful state of North Carolina, and you are even in the more beautiful state of Maine. What part of Maine do we find you in?
So I live in a town called Scarborough, which is essentially a suburb of Portland, on a tidal river near the ocean between two big beaches. So,
oh, nice. And have you lived there most of your life?
No, we've been here now 12 years.
Wow. I've been up to Maine just once in my life, and Portland, I think, is a place where most people would love to retire.
Yes, there are more every day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Now, Matt, following you on social media, most notably LinkedIn, it seems like you spend a good deal of time in offices of your clients. How much travel do you do each year?
Well, I figure I did about 100 presentations last year. I'm on the road probably 45 weeks somewhere. Yeah.
Wow. That makes you a highly valued air traveler for somebody, I'm guessing.
Yes, I'm a diamond with Delta.
Oh, wow. We got two. I'm talking to two diamonds right now. I feel like like maybe I should get platinum status just by
being in our
just
presence.
by exposure. Yeah.
Exactly. Of course, the reward is you get to get on more airplanes. So it's somewhat good.
Yeah, that's not a good payoff.
I don't know if that's a reward. Yeah. So do you enjoy air travel? Does it relax you, or does it just cause you a lot of anxiety?
I have defense mechanisms, I guess I would say, for travel by air. I very much enjoy visiting other cities and learning about the cities and checking out the retail scene and so forth. But it's a little tiresome to be on airplanes all the time.
That's for sure.
What's one of your favorite, or a couple of your favorite U.S. cities that when you go back to, it's always enjoyable and you have fun in the town? And for me, I enjoyed places like Portland.
Yeah.
And I spent a great deal of time in Boston, for better or for worse. But what about you? Where do you like to go that you tend to enjoy? I would
definitely put Portland, Oregon on near the top of that list. It's a really interesting city. There are many things you can do. Most of the outside, the food scene is really strong there. Have lots of friends there, obviously, from my work, and so I would absolutely put that one on the top of the list. I like San Francisco. My wife and I did San Francisco as tourists a few months ago, and it was a lot of fun to just really go visit all the famous sites and locations there. But pretty much everywhere I go, though, I try to find a funky local restaurant and interesting retail, and try to enjoy that part of the travel.
Yeah. So if you could describe your day-to-day at the NPD Group, what does it entail? Have you always been a retail junkie or a data junkie, however you would describe yourself? How did that kind of start for you?
Well, it's really funny. You go back to my college. I was a sociology major in college, so I've
Mm,
always been interested in what makes people in groups do what they do, and this job really allows me to do that. I've been doing research on the sports industry for almost 20 years now,
mm,
and every day is really different. It really depends on events. For instance, yesterday Wolverine announced their quarterly results, and this morning Adidas announced their quarterly results. So I'll be writing up a recap of both of those things. Most days I'm at my desk 5 o'clock or so. I get about
wow.
300 emails a day. So I wade through what has come in overnight.
Yeah.
I subscribe to a lot of newsletters, retail newsletters, and I spend time as those come over reading through them. I share a lot of things on social media. I think that's really an important aspect of developing your network is to be a good sharer, sharing interesting stories. I'm on the phone with the press a lot. I already did a phone interview this morning with CNBC, and I've got another one coming up after this call. So I spend a lot of time talking to the press. I probably do 2, 3 a day. That's an important aspect of my job. If data is coming out, I spend a tremendous amount of time sifting through the monthly results, and then I'm getting ready for presentations. And it takes hours to really put together a great hour and a half presentation.
Yeah.
Sure does. My hope and dream would be that on your next interview with CNBC, you'll say, "Yeah, I just got off a podcast with the Man Group." Is that a possibility, or what do you think?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
So is your closet just absolutely packed full of sneakers? Are you a sneaker junkie?
I'm not. I'm an analyst. I'm not a
Yeah.
fanboy. So
Okay.
if I get sneakers, my daughter-in-law teaches Spanish at a local high school here in Portland, and they have I guess they call it a store for kids who need a backpack or a pair of shoes, and I donate. If anybody sends me shoes, I typically donate those to the store.
Wow, that's even better, I think, than having a stellar collection.
Yep.
Well, it's great to spend some time with you on the phone here, and I don't think in the interviews of with you I've seen it seems that people get right to business. So I think we wanted to just hear the man, the myth, the legend for a bit. And you're an interesting guy. I've met you a couple of times. I think the last time we were in Monterey at the Bicycle Leadership Conference and
Right.
shared a glass of bourbon together. Am I remembering that correctly?
Probably red wine, but yes, we did. I believe we did raise a glass. Yes.
Red wine, red wine for you and bourbon for me, I think. But
There
either
you go.
way, it was very pleasant to see the social side of Matt Powell as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So the hot topic, of course, in specialty retail these days is what's happening online.
Yeah.
That's not the only topic, and I think we're going to probably dig into the brick and mortar side of it for sure. But I'm just interested in your take on the in terms of online sales. If we led with what people are going to be interested in hearing from you, what categories in your worldview are most detrimentally affected by online sales?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think the more commodity kinds of products are really easy to buy online.
Hmm.
If you need tent stakes or golf balls, it couldn't be simpler. It gets more difficult as you're trying to move into the fashion side and multi-dimensional size, color products, whether it's footwear or apparel. Um, but both of those categories are very penetrated, and particularly footwear. Last year, our data shows that 29% of all shoes were sold online. And we actually expect that number to grow to 50% in the next 5 to 10 years. And it's really being driven by brand direct to consumer rather than Amazon or Walmart.com. The brands, particularly in the athletic space, have been extremely aggressive in rolling out their own direct-to-consumer sites. Adidas said this morning on their results that their e-commerce business grew 37% last quarter, and so it really is a huge piece of the business. And if you think about it, you know. Physical stores are always out of sizes on footwear. They can't stay in stock on sizes in footwear. And if you want another color than what the store has, you've got to go to the internet for that. So the limitations, I guess I would say, of physical retail are driving more and more people to the internet. Big bulky items, a canoe, as an example, is probably difficult to buy online. But we're starting to see, people step up. And for instance, if you look at a retailer like Best Buy, who are selling huge television sets now, 72-inch, 75-inch, 82-inch TVs. People can't even fit those in their car to take them home. And so people are buying those products online, and actually having them shipped and delivered. So we may see a tip over here in the outdoor space where larger items are being bought. But there's still a fair amount of problematic issues about buying large items on the internet.
So when you looking at footwear, is that any particular price point that's most deeply affected, or is this across the board from say an Adidas or another brand that's selling? Is it their lower price point, higher price point, or any message there?
I don't think there's a big variance there. Probably some bias to higher prices. We have looked at average selling price of categories in brick and mortar versus online, and the average selling price is higher online. And my conclusion there is that retailers are somewhat nervous about stocking top end products, and so they are carrying more moderately priced products. And if the consumer wants a better hiking boot or a better sneaker, they're probably going to the internet to get that.
Mm. So, where do you think the opportunity is for people who have such a high investment in their brick and mortar locations? Do you think the investment is merging online and brick and mortar, or is there a way to just absolutely differentiate yourself with a physical location that the internet will never be able to do?
I think both. I think both are really essential. We talk a lot. We used to talk about omnichannel, and then we moved over and modified it to omnipresent. And now we're really talking about blended retail, meaning that there is no distinction between online and physical stores. The consumer simply wants to shop whenever, wherever, and however they want to shop. And we have to be ready to serve them in all of those elements. And there are things, for instance, one of the hot topics right now, and one of the most successful new ideas that's really come out of e-commerce is this idea of buy online, pick up in store. It's shortened to BOPUS. And the idea is that I don't have to wait in line for that hot item or that sale item. I don't have to stand and wade my way through the crowds around a register. I can purchase an item and pick it up on my time, at my leisure. And for some folks who have security issues for delivery, it's a way of getting around that as well.
Mm.
And so now you have to ask yourself, is BOPUS a physical purchase or an online purchase? And the answer really is it's a blended purchase, and so we're seeing this as a big idea. So we're encouraging retailers to bring the internet into their store, to offer up all of their catalog online available to them in the store, and that they're at the same time leveraging their store assets to build service, accessorization, community, those kinds of experiential things that you can't do over the internet.
Mm.
You mentioned Best Buy a minute ago as an example of that. Who else comes to mind that you see that you feel's got this figured out?
I would put them head and shoulders above everybody else for sure. I think Nike certainly has a very, very strong internet presence, as does Adidas. REI is doing a good job. They're working very hard to bring it up a notch as well. Dick's Sporting Goods has spent a tremendous amount of energy on their internet, their interface with the consumer. So those are some names I would mention.
How about for I've worked in specialty retail and run and outdoor, and if it's just like a small one or two location shop, it seems like like you mentioned, most of the time we were spending all of our time with a customer writing up a special order to get the color that they wanted or the style that they wanted. Is that something that a small location can continue to do, or should they just focus on one or the other, or continue this blended model?
I think again they really have to focus on both sides of the equation. I think they've got to figure out a way to have an internet presence. They've got, and by the way, that may involve being partners with the brands that they're purchasing, and offering up a brand to show their whole catalog in the store, have it shipped to the store or shipped to the customer. I think the brands have got to let the retailer have a piece of that transaction. Certainly not the normal margin that they might make because they don't have any inventory risk, but involve them in the process. I've been talking a lot to the bike industry about this very idea of taking a bike shop and turning it into a showroom rather than an inventory warehouse, and offering up a brand's entire catalog in the store. So having some physical bikes there to size and to let people try, but not having to own a ton of inventory. And then the bike manufacturer in 48 hours has that bike at the store. The shopkeeper assembles it and therefore gets paid for that. The shopkeeper accessorizes it, offers service and community, and I think the brand should share some of that margin with the with that retailer. Again, not the normal kind of margin that they might have if they own the inventory, but a way of blending again the channels between online. I'm sorry, between brand and retailer. And then I think the retailer really has to work very hard on making sure that their shop is the kind of experience that the consumer wants, and that's focusing on community.
Yeah. Well, we talk about this topic so much with our clients, individually and also on the podcast, about like the potential downfall of this is a small company who doesn't have the space or the capital, or they're drowning in financing from their brands. How do they leverage this relationship so that they can still compete? They're not flooded with inventory that they now own, while still able to negotiate a decent margin, a livable margin, and start to make some profit. Because a lot of the people we talk to, if they just have one or two locations, they can't have this sort of relationship. They feel like they're going to be bought out or owned by their brand.
Well, I think again, I think it's the situation where the two really have to realize that they need each other to survive, and that the relationship, the business model itself, has to change. It's really interesting in the sports industry that we don't have a lot of really broad thinking about how do I change the business model. When Phil Knight's book came out, Shoe Dog, I don't know if you've read it or not. It's a pretty interesting ride, but one of the things that I came away from it was that the business model that he created 40 years ago, which was really created because he needed financing and to get make the products that were ordered, it's the same business model we have today. And I'm pretty sure the world's a little different than it was 40 years ago, and yet the margin rates are about the same. The way retailers buy product is about the same. The way we develop product and ship product and where we make it is about the same. And that's just crazy, in my opinion. I think every brand and every retailer has to step up and say, we've got to do this in a different way. And as opposed to doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
The way you just described that brand and retailer experience sounds to me like a pathway forward. Changing and disrupting the industry, though, is going to have to be a collaboration, and that's what I see
Yeah,
in too many of these industries. There's not a great collaboration between the manufacturer and the retailer.
agree.
On the bike side, for example, a lot of the bike retail manufacturers that we see are flooding their retailers with product and sending it at the wrong time and in the wrong amounts, financing that, and putting the retailer in at the greatest degree of risk. So, what's it going to take for a manufacturer to decide to change that model and see that this is actually a win-win for them as well?
Well, I think in the case of the bike makers, they're being threatened by online only retail as well, and they've got to figure out how to compete against that. And I see this as a potential path for them to be able to compete, to have products at a retailer quickly, to have that product serviced properly, taking care of returns and so forth. Again, I think people have to put on a different hat. And if I'm a manufacturer, I'm not trying to do this with every retailer I'm doing business with, but my best partners, the people who get my brand story, people who know how to present product correctly, who know how to service product correctly, I would pick out a handful of retailers and say, let's try this differently. And
Hmm.
and learn, and what's the right margin for a retailer to have if they don't own the product but they assemble it and service it. I don't know, but it's somewhere between zero and what they're currently making. So we have some guardrails here that can help us.
Yeah.
And I think every brand and retailer has to figure this out. I think people have to step up and say, what we're doing is not going to work in the future. We've got to find a new way.
Well, depending on the industry, of course, there are there are bike boutiques, there are outdoor boutiques that only carry one brand. The shoe industry is a little different. They'll have a little more brands. But do you think that the future for the small town specialty retail, or even regional specialty retail, is that they carry one brand and they only negotiate with their one brand? Or do you think the manufacturers are going to have to do a better job not only communicating with their retailers, but also in the their competition to be in the same space together in this showroom?
I think this model works for multi-brand, and maybe brand A has a different deal than brand B, that maybe works for that brand better, and so maybe the margins are different or the terms are different. But I can see this working for multi-brand once we sort of figured out what the infrastructure looks like here, what the margin structure looks like, and so forth. I think this could absolutely work in a multi-brand story.
What do you think about the Canyon Bikes, VeloFix, mobile shop combination? These guys are as disruptive in the bike industry as anything I've seen, growing like crazy, and with good pricing and an online experience, and then the mobile bike build and repair model. Is that a way forward? What are your thoughts on their approach?
Yeah, I think so. The problem, to me, the problem really ends up being the service component to it, and the mobile shop can't be everywhere at at all times. My local bike shop is there every time I want to go in there. So
Yeah,
if I'm planning a big ride and I'm tuning my bike up and I break something, which happens all the time, and I have to wait 10 days for the mobile guy to get to me, I'm out some opportunity of using the bike. So I think you could, the physical store that's there, I could throw the bike on the rack and drive it over and get it fixed in an hour or so. That I think is a competitive advantage against
yeah,
the
Hmm.
online guys. The pricing structure is another one that's a problem, and maybe again what I'm suggesting says that neither the retailer nor the brand needs to make the same margin that they've been making. Retailer, because they're not owning inventory; manufacturer, because they're turning their inventory more quickly because
yeah.
they're making it available more broadly. And maybe the margins come down a little bit. They're never going to be directly competitive with a DTC maker like that, but potentially you could see the prices come down a little bit.
So we've spent a lot of time in the run industry specifically, and we've seen a lot of like a lot of investment, at least physical investment in new technology. And the thing that comes to mind is like the 3D foot scanning technology that people will put in their store, or custom shoes, custom orthotics. That is very just seems to be from the future. It's a big investment with a physical component as well. Do you think that this is what the consumers are looking for? That this very personalized, very technological advancement in a retail space?
I absolutely think the consumer is looking for personalization, and I think there's a whole lot of angles on what that means, what that looks like. In the cases that what you discussed here really is, I think, for a very small subset of the population. Just as an example, run specialty represents less than 15% of the total running shoe business in the United States.
Hmm.
And I would bet that a significant portion of the population who is shopping in run specialty doesn't need a custom shoe. or can't afford a custom shoe. And so are some of these things useful? Yes, but I don't think they're useful for a broad swath of the population. I think they're much more useful for a really focused, committed athlete who may have a foot or ankle problem that needs special help. Once you've determined what the correct size is for your shoe, you tend to buy that size over and over again. You don't come back in and rethink that. And there's a whole lot of ways to learn what the correct size is without having to have your foot scanned. And I'm not dismissing these technologies. Don't misread me here, but I just don't know that they have a broad commercial application.
Yeah.
When I think about the Adidas concept store, excuse me, flagship store in Manhattan,
Yep.
like there's almost an entire floor though dedicated to a custom shoe, not necessarily 3D technology or some sort of performance design, but more of a fashion look and feel. That seems like a very interesting idea. How do you think that's going?
It's funny. Every brand is offering up this opportunity, whether it's online or in physical stores, as you mentioned. But nobody has come out and said we made our quarter because of customization, or our
Right.
sales are up 10% because of customization. No one will tell me what percentage it is of their business, which says to me it's not a very significant part of the business. Consumers are really interested in instant consumption, same day delivery. Typically, if you customize your shoe, you've got to wait weeks for it to come. I tell a funny story. One of your clients had me speak to their senior management team, and they gave me a gift card to their custom site. And I gave the card to my son. He was still in college at the time, and he spent hours designing his own shoe. And when it came, it looked exactly like his friend's shoe. So, I think there are limitations here, but I'm not suggesting we don't do it any longer. We throw it out. I think we got to continue to play with it, and maybe if we're able to do more 3D printing and near shore the product, that may speed up the delivery time. But yes, but back to the initial question though, I think personalization, whether it's knowing my name, knowing what I bought the last time I shopped here.
Yeah.
I talk a lot. When I'm in Maine, I go to the same coffee shop every day. And when they see me pull in the parking lot, they are pulling my drink for me, and they know my
Yeah.
name. I go to a fish store, and they know what my wife and I like and don't like, and steer me to the best of the things that we do like, and they know my name again, and that kind of personalization is huge.
Yeah.
If you get into the Nike flagship store in Manhattan and you have the Nike app on your phone, it knows you're in there. And it knows what you bought the last time you bought Nike and can point you to, hey, remember those red sneakers you bought? Well, we got a red hoodie that hooks up with that if you want to go that way. So that kind of personalization, I think, it really does have a broad commercial application.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what do you think about this? May be just an opinion question for you. You may not have spent a lot of time pouring through the data on it, but what do you feel about an outfit experience versus a very focused, targeted market? What I mean by that is like outfitting everything that a customer could potentially need, including even here are trails that you can ride at, or here are we'll take you on a backpacking trip, or we have a run group, versus just quick and easy. This is the one thing that you need, and this is a focused boutique store.
I think, well, I think there's a purpose to a focused boutique store. You know what they sell, and that's important. And you're going there because you know they are specialists in climbing or bikes or sneakers. But at the same time, there are customers who need help, don't know what they need. I spoke to Walmart recently, the Walmart sports equipment team, and suggested to them that they should have checklists for the store. You're going camping at the lake. Here's the 7 things you need to have. And maybe the customer's already got 3 of those. They tick them off, and they know they don't need them. But you're not getting to the campground and figuring out you bought a tent, but you don't have tent stakes, as an example. And so I think those kinds of comprehensive checklists are really important. We're also starting to see more and more retailers, direct-to-consumer retailers, coming up with this experience of you call them up. I'm going snowboarding. I'm going to be at the lodge these 3 nights, and here's my height and weight and my shoe size. And you get there, and everything you need for snowboarding is waiting for you when you get there. And when you're done, you leave it and walk away.
Mm.
And I think that kind of Uber experience of having everything taken care of and not having to worry about getting it up and back and so forth is another frontier. Now that it's going to be expensive. This service is not something you're going to do for a small amount of money, but for the
Yeah.
people who want that kind of experience, I think this is a huge opportunity.
Well, you mentioned a few minutes ago about, well, two really good examples of personalization. One with technology, and one I would almost just put as customer service. The Nike flagship store, which has an app that tracks your purchases and where you are, and oh, you're in the store. This is the suggestion for you. And the other was your local coffee shop that when they see your car pull in, they've got your drink order ready. They don't probably have an app that's telling you that you're heading into the coffee shop area. So now I better prepare his
Right,
drink for him.
right,
So what part of this is for an opportunity for our clients, which are small specialty retail for the most part, but also just anybody who owns a physical location. What part of it is an investment in technology or data or having the right product and the spread versus an investment in the people that deal with your customers every day that would know, oh, that's, I see that Toyota pulling up, that's Matt Powell, I better suggest to him whatever I know about him.
right.
So
Or
what is
ask him how to
the
get
dual piece
on
of
the
that?
trip.
An investment in people and an
Yeah.
investment in technology.
Well, look, I think one of the great failures of retail is not paying people well and demanding high performance from them.
Mm.
When I was a retailer, the joke was you paid peanuts, you got monkeys, and I think that today we still are facing this, and even though we're starting to see retail wages rise and we're starting to see an increase in minimum wage out there, I don't think we have pushed this nearly far enough. And I think if you pay someone well, then you absolutely have the right to demand that they offer superlative customer service and spend time with a book, writing down notes on what I bought the last time I was there or where I was going on my trip. So I think that is one investment that all retailers need to make. But secondly, there absolutely is a technological component to this, whether it's a loyalty program and I'm rewarding my best customers. It's really interesting. Over the last 2 years, we've seen many retailers and to some extent even brands starting to enhance their loyalty program. They've realized that taking care of their best customers is a lot less expensive than acquiring a new customer. And
Hmm.
the old 80-20 rule, they're doing 80% of their business with 20% of the people who walk through the door. And so how do you leverage that strength and that opportunity is by knowing more about that customer and offering them more incentives to shop with you. And so there is a technological component to it. I don't expect Matt's ski shop to have an app that says here comes somebody walking in the door and it's telling me everything they bought and so forth. It probably will be fairly low tech the way you would track that, but an absolutely important piece to the puzzle.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love the comment that the focus on hiring and retaining quality people and paying them to become better and deliver a better experience is a way forward. Now, the obstacle to that most are going to talk about is the lack of capacity to increase compensation. How do we pay more? And so I think that's a comprehensive change as well,
Right.
not just hiring a group of part timers who are not trained, motivated, or make this their primary focus. Instead, it's going after people that are passionate about the activity and are willing and able to become professional and increase their skill. That's
Exactly.
going to probably be as big a challenge as the technologies required, and
Right.
both are equally important,
Right.
the technology and the people side.
Absolutely.
So I guess my question there for you would be, and you're a data guy, so how does a retailer begin that conversation to measurably change the way that they hire, the way that they pay, and the way that they train their people?
Well, I think everybody knows who their top performer is, and I think the emphasis needs to be let me compensate that person and then demand more from them. Um,
Hmm.
there's really there actually is a hidden cost that we don't talk about in terms of employee turnover, and that's what it costs to train people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're turning your employees faster than you're turning your inventory, and that it happens in most retail operations today, you're spending a tremendous amount of your payroll on training. And that's money that you're pouring down a hole if that person leaves after 6 weeks. So
Hmm.
I think that if you look at a highly trained, highly compensated employee as a real asset, as opposed to a liability, a cost of business that's prohibitive. I think it's really a change in mindset. The other thing I would mention that it's highly likely that that employee is also a huge shopper in your retail shop. And so if you've got highly motivated people who are making decent money working for you, they're probably going to spend a chunk of that money with you as a retailer, and that partially offsets the expense as well.
As a guy who travels 40 plus weeks a year, it sounds like you may not have a lot of time for shopping yourself, but when you go out for just for fun, I mean, I'm sure shopping and looking at retail, same as me, is part of our work, and so we do a lot of mystery shopping and just learn and observe. But where do you like to shop? What's fun for you? You mentioned fishing, you mentioned coffee. For me, it's good wines and good bourbons and sometimes a little fashion. But for you, where do you like to shop, and what's fun for you from a guy who's been at this a long time?
I really gravitate to the specialists. I buy my fish in one store and my meat in another store, and most of the time I'm buying my vegetables at the farmer's market, and I know the
Hmm.
farmers by name, and I know that this guy's had the best tomatoes for the last 6 weeks, and this guy's got the best uh, what herbs or whatever else I'm buying. I also, when I'm home, shop every day. My friends are amazed at how empty my refrigerator is because I literally go out every day and shop. And I think that's partly a factor of working by myself and working in a remote office. And it's just nice to get out in the afternoon and be near people, even if I'm not interacting with them,
Yeah.
to do that. But I like to shop every day, and I absolutely gravitate to the specialists.
So, I mean, if you're on the road 40 plus weeks a year, you probably eat out a lot. So, does that mean when you're home, you like to cook and you
Yeah,
like to make your own meals?
yeah. Cooking is my avocation. And,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's what I
What are
do.
some of the things you like to cook?
Oh man, you name it. I try to make a lot of Asian food. I'm really fascinated with all of that, and interesting. In this tiny little town here, we have six really good Asian markets, so it helps me get the ingredients and so forth that I need. I make a lot of Mediterranean, fairly simple, highly spiced. Fragrant. I've been doing probably the cookbook I've worn out the most recently was Yotam Ottolenghi's Jerusalem cookbook, and
Mm,
that was really an eye opener for me in terms of how to use new spices and so forth. So typically my meals are less than an hour, often less than
tuning in.
to throw together.
Yeah.
But fresh. Sounds
Yes,
like fresh and you're creating it on the spot. I really dig that.
exactly. It is my creative outlet for sure.
Yeah. Well, Matt, we're at the end of our questions here. I really got a lot of insight from this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this, the finished product. And I hope it was fun for you. And is there any last questions from you or Dan?
No, I'm good.
From my
Thank you for
perspective, I
having
just
me
think
on. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
yeah, and from my perspective, I really appreciate you taking some time out of a very busy schedule, and I look forward to bumping into you probably in the Atlanta airport more likely than anything else. But either way,
Probably right. Uh,
yeah.
I'm usually at that fried chicken place in the middle terminal. So,
Oh, well, there you go. I'll look for you next time.
yep.
all right.
Thanks,
Well,
Matt.
for everyone listening, thanks for joining, and I hope you got some. I actually know you got some good gems out of this, so appreciate you tuning in.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Retail Toolkit. Retail Toolkit is a powerful software platform that integrates seamlessly with Lightspeed or Ascend to enhance your point of sale system and empower independent specialty retailers with data-driven insights that increase profits, turns, margins, and traffic. Retail Toolkit features include their game-changing open-to-buy tool, which helps you plan purchasing according to inventory trends and reduces costly markdowns, their personalized and automated email marketing, which engages customers with higher open rates, and their suite of sales and visitor traffic tools, which measure conversion rates and schedule staff at the right times with payroll built right in. Basically, Retail Toolkit helps you leverage the valuable data your store is already gathering and gives you the tools to take advantage of it. New Retail Toolkit customers from this episode of Mandatory Listening will receive free visitor traffic hardware when they sign up, and special discounts are available exclusively to members of the NBDA and the Bike Cooperative.
That's it for this episode. If you like what you hear, subscribe and leave a review on our iTunes channel. We'll see you next week.